Our second teacher will be Most Venerable Suhita Dharma, also known as Bhante, which is venerable in Pali, by his students. Bhante is a senior Buddhist bhikkhu ordained in all three Buddhist lineages, Theravada, Mahayana, and Vajrayana. When Bhante was 14 and a half years old, he became a Catholic monk in the Trappist order, which is a cloistered order that lived in the wilderness, day in and day out in noble silence. He was a Trappist monk for 12 years. During a visit to India, he was introduced to Buddhism and soon afterwards became a Buddhist monk, the first African American to be ordained a Buddhist monk. His teacher was the late Venerable Dr. Thich Thien An, who was a Dharma brother to Thai, so Bhante is related through monastic lineage to Thai. He's currently Vice Abbot of Du Phap Temple in San Gabriel, California, which is just east of Los Angeles. He really enjoys teaching compassion meditation and Kalyanamitta, or spiritual friend practice at temples and retreats throughout the world, and also locally in California, New Mexico, which is how I met him, and at the small Semillas de Compasión, or Seeds of Compassion Meditation Center that he helped to found in Juarez, Mexico. He's been a longtime social justice activist and social worker, and has worked with Indo-Chinese refugees, homeless folks, people with HIV/AIDS, and former offenders. I am so excited that both of these wonderful gifts are sitting here with us, and really look forward to enjoying their presence this whole weekend. So please offer your attention and your heart and your love to these two precious jewels. Thank you.
Good morning to everyone. My Pali, Sanskrit Buddhist name is Suhita Dharma, and everybody calls me Bhante. But I have another name, and that's my Vietnamese name, and it's called Watung Tik An Duk. And I'm in my 7th stage of life. So I usually use my Vietnamese name whenever I'm with my Vietnamese brothers and sisters. Over the last 30 years, living in many of the Vietnamese temples around the world. In fact, I've been fortunate enough to live in almost all the traditions that you can find in Buddhism where there are monastics. Zen. My favorite was Obaku Zen because it's Zen Pure Land from the Chinese tradition. My original tradition comes out of the Tibetan. And as was mentioned earlier, I joined the Trappist Monastery when I was 14 and a half, almost 15 years old. And I'd done it really on a dare. And because I was training when I was 9 years old, my father was stationed in Germany, and we were stationed just outside station in Nuremberg. And he took me to see the atrocities that had happened during that war. And it was at that moment that something really clicked in me and made me decide that I was going to try to find some kind of way where we could be truly peaceful and happy, not knowing anything about what was happening, say like now Buddhism or those things, even though we did have a Buddha in the house. After making up my mind that I wasn't going to let anything stand in my way, that was the beginning of my defiance. So when I was in boarding school, one of the priests asked me asked all of us, what do we want to do, become religious, or do we want to join some kind of priesthood or brotherhood or whatever? And so when it came my turn, I told him I wanted to become a Trappist. And he looked at me and he just cracked up. He laughed and he laughed. And he said to me, "You will not last 1 week." And did the feathers go up? I was burning. I was on fire. And I sat there and I thought about it. And I went back to my room after our little meeting was over with the group. And I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I thought about it. Then I packed my bags. Left, it was about 5:30 in the morning so I could catch the early morning train to go to L.A., and then from L.A. to go to the East Coast. When I walked out of that school, nobody knew where I was at. So I've been famous most of my life for disappearing. So when I want to disappear, I will disappear. And I went to the Trappists. They notified my parents where I was at and said, "Don't worry, he's not going to last a week." But to their surprise, when it came time for my making my solemn vows, I invited Father James from my old school to come for the ceremony. He came. My parents came. And I made my solemn vows. After that, I went to, it was like a grill that we could talk through, because in those days, the Trappists was really in a closed order for men. And I went to see the family and Father James and everything. And I took one look at him. And I said, "Ha, ha, 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 ha." And he knew that I did it, so I stayed 12 years. Under Pope John the 23rd, he had made arrangements for some monastics, especially Trappists and Benedictines and Jesuits, to go to the East to study meditation under different meditation masters. You study Hinduism, Buddhism, whatever you wanted. It was just before the Vatican III. And so they made the announcement at my monastery, and I was one of those five or six of us, I think, volunteered to go to different places to study. And it hit me because my whole spiritual life has been based on a Catholic doctrine of a very famous picture of the Virgin, and that was Our Lady of Guadalupe. It led me into the Trappists, it led me out of the Trappists, and it led me right into Buddhism. Right into it. And when I had a chance to go to India and to study, I also have met a friend there who took me to meet a Lama who was a hermit. And when I met that Lama who was a hermit, we clicked just like that. And I decided to stay and learn from him. And I lived with him for 5.5 years until he passed away. Then upon his passing away, going through all the training I had to go through, because as you know in Tibetan tradition, Anytime you want to move in your training and in your practice, you had to do everything 100,000 times. And many levels of 100,000 times we had to pass in those 5.5 years. I wasn't the only student he had. There was 3 others, Nepalese students, plus myself. And he was a Lama. He was Chinese and Nepalese mixed. And he spoke very good English when he wanted to. And he trained and taught us through the Tibetan language and through all the different rituals and things. But then later I learned, living a life of silence for 12 years, I learned if we learn how to be quiet long enough, all the answers that we need to know is contained right within our heart, right there. All the things that you want to know is right there. It's just a matter of being quiet, being patient, and being still. And slowly these things would unfold and unfold and unfold and unfold for you. And for myself personally, you know, as a product of coming from the South and as a product of seeing such atrocities and such painful things at an early age, and my anger and disgust towards human beings, which was really, really strong at that time, through the practice of quietness and stillness and silence and meditation and watching the breath rising and falling and all these doing rituals and all these different things. Plus, still on the side, I still redo my Mass. I still read the Psalms. I still did the office on one side. And then I was doing all my Tibetan practices together on the other side. With the permission of my teacher at the same time. So I learned over the years, and that's why I ordained in the 3 traditions and become completely non-sectarian in any shape, form, or fashion. My job and my duty as a Buddhist monk is to become the Kalyamitta, the good friend, the guide, the one that will show you and help you find your own personal way to your own spiritual practice. And when you find it, I say to you, adios. I'm so happy for you that you found your space and your place. You know, many people I know who have gone and they have joined, some of my students have joined many different communities, Buddhist communities, some even joined Christian communities, because they found the space and the place for them to truly practice in such a way that you'll do it. I believe in what is called practical Buddhism, the 7-Eleven Buddhism, 24/7. Everything we do is part of the Dhamma. And if we look close enough with silence, and we can see these thoughts passing. And some of them are very weird. Some of them are so weird you don't want to tell anyone else about them. But they are there, and they pass. But we have to come face to face with those thoughts. You know. I used to say it's like walking through the fires of hell to come face to face with those things. And that is what helped me overcome my anger, my hatred, and all those things that sort of hampered me as a child to open up. And when that happened, I started to meet many, many wonderful teachers. And when I met the late Venerable Dr. Tianan, that was a sunum bonum. Because at our place in Los Angeles, every Tibetan, every Buddhist monk, every Zen monk, I don't care who you were, when you came to Los Angeles, you came to the International Buddhist Meditation Center, and when you came there, you would stay for a week, and Dr. Tianan would make you teach. We didn't have to go anywhere. Everything was there for us to learn. We didn't have to go any place whatsoever. Then in around 1971, Thai came. I had to go pick him up at the airport and bring him to our center. And I was very happy to meet him. And actually, he was really the second Vietnamese monk I ever met in my life. And one of the nicest things he did for me before we took him to the hotel, he gave me a robe. And it's one of the kind that you pull over your head that he likes to wear. And he pulls it over his head. And I wore that robe until it fell off. You're talking about holy. You should have seen that robe. And then later on went into France. And I'm telling you some little secrets, but I'm not going to tell you all the secrets because if you really want to know, you have to talk to Thai. You know, what's in the Sangha stays in the Sangha. So I went to study with a very interesting monk. His name was Thich Nguyen V, and lived with him for about 3 or 4 years. And when we had free time, we would go visit Thai. We'd go visit him. And at that time, he was staying at a place we called the Sweet Potato Hamlet. Before anything ever started. And he taught us the whole program of the inner being. He taught us the whole thing. And he gave each one of us a copy of all the rules and regulations and things as it was at that time. And we come back, and then certain people we teach that to, certain people but we always taught mindfulness of breathing and rising and falling, standing, walking, sitting, lying down, because according to the Buddha, that is something we take with us everywhere we go. You don't need any special equipment to do those things. You stand, you walk, you sit, you lie down. That we have with us everywhere we go at all times, 24/7. But with mindfulness and awareness, it also not only helps you overcome certain tendencies that we need to face for ourselves, face to face. And once we do that, when that is removed from you, then we are truly free. Then we do not have any fear whatsoever. That's why I go the places I go. That's why I live in some of the most dangerous places you can imagine. It's not because I want to. It is because it is the right thing to do at that moment. At that particular moment. You might not be able to solve the problem, but what you can do is bear witness. And then you begin to try to find a way or a solution to solve that problem through the bearing of witness of what's going on at that moment and at that time. And this was the way of the Zen peacemakers with Glassman or Roshi. We used to call him Bernie. This was the way of that. And this was the way of mostly all my teachers. Stay on the path, do the work that you are doing. Don't go to the left, don't go to the right. Stay in the middle. Bear witness. And bear witness to what? Bear witness that one day we can solve the problems and have freedom and human rights for every sentient being on this planet. But in order for us to do that, we have to work on ourselves. That's where it starts, on ourselves. So in the morning when you go home and you get up and you look in the mirror and you say to yourself, I love you. For yourself. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be free from greed, hatred, and all these things. Then we extend it to everywhere we go at all times. And another thing I like to do is when I go out and I'm going someplace, and just on the spur of the moment like that, I try to do a little act of kindness to a stranger, to somebody I don't know. I try to do some little simple thing. Sometimes it's just to find somebody that's looking like they're down, just a smile, You try to get people over the idea that when we are trying to do something that is positive, that is compassionate, with loving kindness towards them, is not this idea where they have to put on this armor, And those of you from New York, you know what I mean. You put on the face. And then you go out to do your duties. And this is what we try to help break down. And during the time I lived in New York and worked in New York for a number of years, that's how I learned to break down the face. And once I was able to break down the face, I applied everywhere I go. It's just a little act of kindness you can do. Whatever it hits you, hits your heart, then we do it. So I'm not exactly sure how long I'm supposed to be talking. So somebody let me know if it's time to. 10 minutes? How much? 20? Oh, okay. Okay. I feel safe now. But as I was saying, these are things that we learn. Like, for example, when I learned my particular practice, and over the years it evolves. It evolves in such a way that you are able to almost start your own self-contained practice. And this is what you share with others. You share it with others. We all have our unique way. No two of us are the same in this room. We all are different at a certain level, but yet we all are one at the higher level. At the higher level, we all are one. There's no distinctions. It doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what kind of food you like to eat. It doesn't matter what language you speak. We all become one at the higher level. But on the mundane, everyday level, we appear different. But if you go to a place like Sri Lanka, I bet you'll find a double. I can guarantee you that if you go to Sri Lanka, you will find a double. Oh, that looks just like Angel. Now I know what she looks like with long hair. And all Dressed in a sari, for example. This is true. This is really true. This is no joke. You go to Sri Lanka and you can find that out for yourself. There are doubles in Sri Lanka. But I don't know if they clone, but there are doubles. Okay. I like to joke a lot. I like to laugh a lot. I'm always happy. And I work at it. That's why I like to try to be happy, try to be friendly to others. Try to be peaceful to others. I've been like that ever since. I was trying to do that even when I was a kid, even before I knew anything about spiritual life, Buddhism, all these other traditions and philosophies and all the things I have learned over the years. I always felt that that was the right thing to do. Just that. Be kind, be gentle, be respectful, be honest to anyone you come into contact with. And then if you make a mistake, in which we all do, we fall down, we make a mistake, we should be the first one to stand up and acknowledge that mistake. And then continue on. Don't give up. Never give up. Just keep walking the way, walking the way, walking the way, walking the way. And one day, you will see for yourself. This is where faith comes in. It comes in later. It's not at the beginning. It comes in much later. And it's harder for some than for others. But once you realize the benefits that this practice have done for you, you're going to keep it. You're going to practice it. And you're going to hold tightly to it. This is one of the reasons why they call the teachings the triple gem. There's no price on it. There's no ownership on it. No one can own it. No one can keep it. It has to be shared by all, regardless. And it's like a rainbow. Because when the sun shines on a perfect diamond or gem, what do you see? Many, 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 many colors. That's what you see. And that's what we see. That's what we see. We are part of the gem, or the priceless gem that leads us to freedom, that leads us to peace, that leads us to happiness, and we will grow and maintain that. As myself, I took the Bodhisattva vows and made the vow, life after life after life after life, I will continue my practice and continue my work. And I imagine maybe in the next few years or so, I'll know if all of this is true or not. And if it's not, I'm coming back with a vengeance. So I'm giving you heads up. I'm coming back with a vengeance. I give you heads up. But according to my own faith and my own belief, I believe that sincerely from the bottom of my heart. Have anyone in this room ever had a near-death experience? I had one also. And that's why I just made that joke, because I am 100% confident that the life force continues on and on and on and on and on. But it's up to us to discover all these wonderful and most beautiful things. But when you have an experience like that, it changes our lives 100,000%. So in sort of closing from talking and with you. And I want to thank you for inviting me to come to the retreat. It was kind of up and down. I wasn't sure if I could make it or not because we had many things going on at that time. But I'm glad I did because this is the first time I had a chance to come and see Deer Park Monastery. And it's quite a beautiful place. It's a good practice place, a good energy place. So you should take advantage of it. And those of you who comes here often, each time you come, bring 1 or 2 extra friends with you so they can share. You know, don't be stingy. Share. Write them up. How would you like to go to a nice hike or outing and bring them up here? You know, that's what I'm going to do the next time I come. And I'm hoping that I can bring my group from Juarez, Mexico, the next time we're planning on a trip to California, that we can bring them up here so they can see and have the opportunity to experience and see what it's like to come here. So I want to thank you all for inviting me, and I wish the blessings of the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha guide each and every one of you, and may you find peace in your life. Thank you very much. Sadhu.